Could I talk to your sports desk, please? I like the sports news at the Fitbit. Thanks. Hello, could I talk to Rahman, please? Rahman, yeah. I tell him it's Mr. Throat, Mr. D Throat. You'll know what I'm. Have I got a what? What instead of larynx? Back in the. No, sorry, I don't know what that is. I wouldn't know where to find that. So, can I just talk to Rahman, please? I'll hold. Watch the way we drop it in a mixed timing. Hello, it's me. Aye. Right, same starting 11 as Tuesday night, except, in fact, before we get into accept, are you still good for your side of the deal? No, because I'm doing all the work here. I don't want cash. No, money transfers is too obvious. No, I want the windows. I want the, because if you get the big headlines, they get the big publicity. They benefit from it. I want the conservatory. I want the Phil C.R. Smith conservatory. And I want the stained glass feature. I want a feature window, Rahman. Aye, right, alright. Okay, it's the same starting 11 as Tuesday, except Raskin's coming in for Rothwell. Rothwell's he's at least on the bench, but I think he might get dropped altogether, Rothwell, just because he's resting him for. He's not been right. Apparently, Rothwell's not been right since he arrived. He's not been 100% fit, but he knows the role better, because he played with Martin before. Aye, no, it's not Acclaimed. No, he's going to play him at 6. Raskin's going to come in at 6, but it's not Acclaimed because they win the other night. That's it. They all know he's the boss. It's all sweetness and light in the camp now. But just be Raskin coming on to play at 6. Not even. That's just he's letting him play his favourite role. He needs him at 6. He needs something. He needs another 6. So it's not Acclaimed in. But everything's absolutely fine. So. Is that you? It's the same source. It's a solid source. It's the boy at the Spar 8 till late. Because it's a fella that delivers the rolls. He gets it off. And of course the guy delivers rolls all over the place. He delivers the rolls to that newsagent and my guy. Right. Okay, so I'll see you at the back of 6 then. No, that's what I mean. I'll see you I'll be watching the telly. I'll talk to you Tuesday morning. Okay, right. How you doing, folks? How's it going? Welcome to your Fatek Motherwell were our first domestic match of last season, our first home match, and Motherwell were our first domestic match of this season, but we played them away from home. And Dundee were our first game at Ibrox last season, and a Saturday night kick-off in the League Cup. And Dundee are our first domestic match at Ibrox this season, and it's a Saturday night kick-off, but it's a league game, a Saturday evening, but it's all enough of a coincidence. Hope we get a win, just like we did last season. The patter will get better than this as the pod goes on. No, it will. You've watched these before. You know it will. Preview pod coming to you in association with Gersnet. Check out Gersnet tonight. It'll have been on by the time you see this. Get on it. I don't know. I've not seen. I'm expecting really to read about it in the news, the kind of crime updates and all that. Because it's going to be carnage. I don't know why Frankie's done this, but he's got Scott Bradley on with Stuart Weir on the Friday night, and it's only a 2-man job on a Friday. It's not even like the last time I'm there to split them up, because Scott is the biggest James Tavernier fan there is. Stuart, it's fair to say he's kind of James Tavernier agnostic at best, and after what happened during the week with Tav getting dropped, it's just going to start. But I was there to split them up the last time, but it's just going to be mayhem. It's going to be absolute mayhem. I can't stand to watch it because it's just like when the parents, are arguing. If you're the way and you start thinking it's your fault, you start blaming yourselves. Why is this splitting up? No, so I can't watch it. But you should get in there just to make sure nobody comes to any harm. Maybe just phone the police phone an ambulance if it gets too out of hand. But I'm sponsored by Gersnet, and I'm also sponsored by. Well, this is a public service announcement, really. I'm not taking a fee for this bit of advertising here. I'm sponsored, but it's my moral duty to be sponsored by checking the ABV on your cans before you buy them. Not lager, beer, whatever your ale. If you're like myself, you're kind of lazy, 50 plus, I'm well away from 50, I'm closer to 60 now. But if you want a few beers, and you can't be bothered doing the whole kind of artisanal thing, with the hobgoblins and all the different, the pisswater stuff. Like Foster's did that advert just now, fancy jazz hat or something, a voodoo jazz hat, the fancy beers, put it in a jam jar. I do like all that kind of stuff, but it's more about the fact that anything over 5%, I need that to get a buzz on. Anything less than 5%, I'm 2 or 3 steps away. It's a life of bevy, and I'm 2 or 3 steps away from being the guys you used to see hanging about outside the newsagents at 8 o'clock in the morning waiting to get their cans of Tenant Special. But I was in Dumbarton yesterday. I know, plenty of reasons to go to Dumbarton. Great place. But I thought we'd just drop in to the supermarket and just get some stuff for the weekend. Weekend supplies. And I don't know if we went after the right hand side of the roundabout. I know the Morrisons are doing it. I just thought, is that the one in Largs, the Morrisons in Largs, that you've got to go down the way after the roundabout? It's on a wee kind of hill. No, it's Dumbarton. It's various places that you go to for a wee cup of tea and that way. So it's an Asda, is it? Right, long story short, you know it, I know it. I took the left. Maybe it was the McDonald's and the KFC to the left hand side. Maybe think, oh God, this must be the right lane for me. But I was looking for a supermarket. Turns out it's an Asda. But right, I made the best of things. Didn't know where anything was, so it took a bit longer to get round it. But I always managed to make the beers last. You know, I don't make them last. But I always managed to make the beers the last thing you pick up in the supermarket. And I was going around the aisles, and when you want beers at the beginning of your holidays, you can maybe be fussy or whatever, but once you've been drinking all summer, I just get to the point, I just need a hit. I just need something that's going to get me over it. And I didn't want to get like the £15, like kind of packs of 10 or 12 cans or whatever like that, the kind of 440ml cans. I just wanted, basically I wanted a couple of pints. I thought we get the 568ml cans. They come in packs of 4 usually. Most supermarkets have got them these days. You know, the 4 cans are all glued together because you can't get the, you know, the thing that got the plastic. You used to get the plastic ring around the top that would hold them all together, but of course that strangles the dolphins and the seagulls and stuff like that. You know, the kind of paraphiliac mammals. So we can't have that. So they're all glued together now, and it's pint cans. I thought I just want like a couple of pints a night with some crisps. It was the old. I already had the McCoy's steak flame grilled rib for his pleasure. They were already locked and loaded, but I just wanted like 2 cans for last night. I'm going to have another 2 cans a night once I've done this pod, just enough to chill out because the alcohol's just floating in my system because I've been drinking consistently all summer. It's not like you've had like 2 or 3 weeks of hard work and you're like, I just want to have exactly the kind of right stuff and just nick. I just wanted something that's over 5%. That's the thing. I've got to have stuff that's over 5%. It just doesn't have. It'd be like that time I ended up getting the Peroni Zero or whatever it's called. I just picked up by mistake. That was a sad night. Threw it to the fridge. I just cracked one of these. Oh, Jesus. But I picked up, I thought I'd been having San Miguel all summer, just out of laziness. I would jump and get the San Miguel instead of going for the artisanal stuff, you know, the kind of the fancy, colourful cans. They're a bit like the vapes for the Waynes, you know, where the colours and that. You get the cans are the same for all guys like me. You know, you're still trendy because it's, you know, got surfboards on it and skulls and things. You're still kind of it's still happening for you. It really isn't it? But it's just I want 5% volume minimum, else I'm not going to get a buzz off it at all. So I went down to the bottom of the aisle, and there it was. I just wanted to pick up San Miguel. I know it's 5%. That's fine, but I'm having a lot of it recently. I thought Kronenberg. I've known the Kronenberg for years. Maybe a couple of years fly in quick when you're my age, you know. But I definitely haven't had it for a wee while. So it was about £1 cheaper. It was about £7.20, I think, for the 4 San Miguel, which is like less than £2 a pint when you think about it. But then the Kronenberg was like £6 something. I thought I'll just grab that because it's 5%. I've not had it for ages. That's right. And something just because the basket was getting weighed down because I had the hand basket and I had lots of stuff in the soups and stuff like that. Man, just the cans went to the top and it kind of sagged down, and I was always just desperate to drag it the extra couple of feet to get it to the checkout. But something just made me, something flickered in my eye. I thought, there's something not right here. I just want to double check something. So I picked the basket down, I picked up the cans. And as I say, they're all glued together these days. You know, you've got to kind of slowly turn them away from each other to prise them open. I'm always scared I'm going to rip the can open. But the bit that's got the ABV, like the alcoholic content, it was all at the back of each of the 4 cans, and they'd put the 4 backs of the cans together with the glue, so I couldn't see what it was. And I don't know why I was like, Kronenberg's always 5%. But something just bothered me because it wasn't. It was like it's Premier 1664 or something, and I just thought it was the packaging changing. Because when you've been drinking for like 30 odd years, the same as myself, you're just used to the packaging changing on everything all the time. Not even stuff you drink, everything. The Coca-Cola, not even alcohol, just sweeties, everything. I can remember marathons before there were Snickers and things like that. And I'm still looking at the cans of Tennent's, and I'm expecting there to be, you know, a kind of scantily clad girl next door picture on the back here, but it's not. Still been for decades that's happened. But it's funny how you just thought. So I thought, of course, the can style has changed or something, but it's different. I got one. I went back to the same shelf, and I found one eventually, a 4-pack that had you could see the ABV, and it's 4.6%. 4.6. They've changed it. I looked this up. Apparently, Kronenberg they did this like last year. they took down from 5% to 4.6%. That could have absolutely ruined my night. So it's just a warning, it's a safety warning, health and safety warning, really, public service announcement. Just make sure, check your ABV on the cans, even if you think it's something that you know, a can that you know, make sure you can just check it all the time, because they're changing it all the time. And it's, you wouldn't have got a fit. How you doing, folks? My name's Alec Anderson. Wake up in the morning and the light it hurts your head. The first thing you do when you get up out of bed, you hit them streets a running and try to beat the masses and go and get yourself some cheap sunglasses. Oh yeah, and you might not need sunglasses tomorrow, because by the time the game kicks off 5:30 at Ibrox, the sun will be on its way down, but it will still be light and what have you. That's nice, because I feel as if I want to bask slightly longer in the glory of what happened on Tuesday night against Victoria Pilsen, because I'm slowly starting to remember that it's no beating teams in Europe that's the problem. It's beating teams usually after a European game, because we've done so well in Europe over the past 7 or 8 years. But it's usually the domestic match we've got, and even though against a Celtic, and it's the kind of lower scale. I don't want to add to the insult that the brilliant Lyle Cameron has unintentionally inflicted on Dundee by constantly calling them a much smaller club, and when he's been nice about Rangers in his in-house interviews. But Dundee is just kind of one of the teams that are fighting against relegation these days. Great club Dundee, but there's no happy birthday to the Beano, by the way. Happy birthday to Beano, DC Thompson. I think it's 100 years old, the Beano, this year or whatever. Something in the news last night I never watched properly, but all the best to the Beano. And the Bruins and Wally, if they're in as well, give them my kind regards. But this is something I don't want to think about that. I don't want to get into that problem too early. Maybe I've gone too soon in my eulogising of Russell Martin. Can I tell you, he's the man, because really he's got to prove it in this game, hasn't he? This is the problem that all these Rangers managers are constantly brought in to solve. It seems crazy that they're all doing so well in Europe, and that's a much better achievement than winning anything domestically in Scotland. But week in, week out, it does drag you down if they're not winning. If they're not doing as well as they're supposed to do in domestic games, Rangers. So it's going to be a big test, and I just want to kind of enjoy the European game, because I got back home and I watched Jonathan Sutherland's interview with Russell Martin after the game on Tuesday night. Got back home, it had been covered live on the BBC. I'd recorded it, and just fast forward to see the goals and all that, because it was getting to back at midnight. And then I saw the interview with Russell Martin, who came pitchside with Jonathan Sutherland, and as you know, he was a miserable get, quite happy to. Well, I don't think he's miserable. I think he's quite enjoying the fact that Rangers could be painted as being terrible while winning a massive European tie against Panathinaikos, a tie we weren't expected to win. And he's talking to Russell Martin, and Russell Martin's just so effervescent, but not in any way boastful. He's enthusiastic, and he's given really long, self-effacing, honest answers, detailed answers to everything without taking a breath, really. Russell Martin is standing there next to Peter Lovencrantz and Andy Halliday by the side of the park, and he then ends it, Jonathan Sutherland. It's almost like, I don't really care about everything you've said, I'm going to get a chippy wee question in at the end, and he goes, so, yes or no, quick, we don't have a lot of time, quick yes or no answer, you happy man now? And so, obviously, Russell Martin's instinctively rejecting the kind of format, the loaded question, but it's the form of the question that is loaded to make it yes or no. Yeah, I'm happy. No, he's not going to have that. So he started kind of try to explain a bit more. I was never emotional about what happened the other day. It was just one of these things. I'm trying to reduce it to something petty, So, oh, you happy, Bunny, now, or something. So he goes, sorry, Russell, don't have time. So he cuts off the Rangers head coach, who's been out there just giving him his time and giving him really honest answers and all that. So Russell Martin's like, oh, that's fine, they're struggling for time. So he goes away because he's got other media duties. And then it's Jonathan Sutherland finds the time to comment on the fact that Russell Martin's always heading off, and Russell Martin's away. This is what we're dealing with just now. It's not just Sky. We know BBC Scotland Sportscene. There was a long dispute with Rangers and a long history of them being pretty inaccurate and horrible about Rangers. But it's all over it's all over the mainstream sports media. This is a style for a lot of the channels that you previously would have relied on. They've got the coverage, they've got the cameras. You're thankful that they're there to film the thing, but constantly trying to undermine and create just a bit of hysteria, real tabloid stuff. And I felt as it was pretty odd. I mean, it's not just a Rangers thing, anti-Rangers thing. I always remember Hazel Irvine when the wizard from Wishaw, John Higgins, Celtic mad, from a Celtic mad family, but phenomenal, just like phenomenal Scottish snooker player representing Scotland when it comes to the snooker and all that, and he'd won one of his many titles. I don't know if it was the world's title or the Brit, it might have been the UK title. It was just after his father had passed away. So Hazel Irvine's in there and just it's really emotional, It was an unbelievable game as well. I think he'd been about 6 frames down and he just had come back like the machine he is, unrelenting, and the other guy just collapsed. He couldn't handle it. I remember he just couldn't handle the pressure for John Higgins. He let him back in at the end, and the guy was just like couldn't sit back down fast enough. He's missed the first chance he had. And anyway, the whole point is, remember Hazel Irvine getting in there and asking all the questions, and then she's just right at the end. She was like, "And if you're thinking about anybody right now, who is it?" So he's going to have to say his dad, because that is who he's thinking about. His dad. He just lost him like a couple of weeks before or something. My dad, and of course he burst into tears at that, as we all would. And I just remember her being totally brilliant, and away she went, like, did it. It's like, I can't rely on you to mention your dad off your own back, because maybe you're one of the, proper working class Scottish folk who doesn't try and show, doesn't try and, pour their emotions out there for other folks' entertainment. So, but I got it out, I pushed you over the edge, away she went. It's that kind of thing. It's not even just about just getting upset, just getting folk upset, make them angry, make them cry, whatever. That seems so basically it kind of spoiled it a wee bit. It is spoiled, but you need to be really bitter to let that spoil it for you. But I just wanted to bask because it was such a fantastic performance. It might be the last fantastic performance we get under Russell Martin. You never know. Everything had gone so well, and things have gone so well in a European match when you find yourself. And this is Wednesday, and Thursday, and even today, I'm still thinking, God, Tuesday the 5th of August, just a great date for a European game against a Czech side, isn't it? It's just to myself, I'm talking just as I'm getting my cans off the shelves and Asda and stuff like that. It's a proper European qualifying round. And I'm somebody like always moaning about how European football is, there's far too many rounds in it now, it takes too long. I come for the age of, the 87-88 European Cup. We beat Dinamo Kiev. I was at that game. I missed out the Gornik Zabershay game. Money wasn't, I was spending it on wine, women and song in those days, as well as the football. And then I was at the Stoy Bucharest game. That was a quarter-final. We played 3 games at Ibrox in Europe that season, and if we'd won the third, we'd have had one more game maximum. That would have been the semi-final of the European Cup. You win 4 ties in those days, you were in the final of the biggest trophy in Europe. Whereas now, Steven Gerrard, that's when Souness was manager. Steven Gerrard comes in, another European Cup winning Liverpool captain, comes in as Rangers manager. And he gets through 4 rounds. He gets through 4 rounds in Europe at Ibrox. It's in his first European campaign, but that's to get into the group stage. And I think we actually respected that achievement more because of the situation. But I'm somebody who's always, it's just getting out of hand. It's expanding too much, blah, blah, blah. But I'm used to Europe starting maybe September. But I'm not used to it because it's been most of my adult life now. Europe has been this constantly expanding thing with qualifiers being played in July and in August. But just your mind, your kind of habits are set, when you're a kid up until about 21. So that's the thing. But even I now find myself just thinking that's a proper European qualifying date. Tuesday, that great day of the week, and also a great date in the calendar, the 5th of August. But July's crazy still, and it's mad hot. That's perfect for playing Panathinaikos. That was mental, wasn't it? That was mad. And that's what I'm thinking about that tie now as well. A lot of people still really upset that we had conceded so many chances. We won the thing. We won a tie that we weren't supposed to win. But it's like, no, but I didn't like the way we're conceding all these chances. I don't like this, Russell Martin. He's obviously just got the bare bones of the squad that he wants, but we got through it. Anyway, the goalkeeper saved us. It's his job. He's supposed to. You don't, when a striker scores a goal for us, you don't go, aye, but it's only because the striker scored goals that we won the game. James Tavernier scores a goal for us, it doesn't count. But that was mad. July, the heat in Athens as well, but a night at Ibrox against Panathinaikos, we're getting pounded in the first half, but we hang on, get the 2 goals in second place, gone crazy. That was great. And then it's a Czech side, Victoria Pilsen. Never been in a European final, no Czech side has. They're not even, the kind of arrivists within the Czech Republic, within Czechia. It's only the last kind of 15 years or so that they've really hit the heights domestically, and then the European group stage regulars all the time. So you know about them, you've seen them in the telly, in the highlights packages, but they're not that massive. But it just felt they're just a hard enough, a tough enough, a well-known, a famous enough opposition on a Tuesday night. I don't know why. I just suddenly felt kind of buzz off the back of it. Gassama and Antman are the main thing, but just a lovely kind of basking in it. It was the way they played in that. It was an all-white kit, of course. Victoria Pilzener were playing. I was talking about this the other night in the reaction pod, the post-match reaction pod, but it was kind of off-white. If it had been purely all-white, it would have been to Real Madrid, Valencia, maybe Valencia. I know they usually wear the black shorts, but it would have been too glamorous almost. It would have taken a bit of attention away. It was that kind of, there was an underlying grey or kind of black through it that we just made it a kind of off-white that just perfected the fact that they were almost anonymous. Victoria Pilsen, we knew it was their away kit as well, so there was no need to be disrespectful towards it, but it made them like the cones on the training pitch, like lampposts, like crash test dummies, because that's what they were there for. They were there to be no more than an irritant to Rangers. It was almost like they were there to highlight the glorious deep blue of their European away kit, even though I think there's too much white on the top, but it was to just shine the light on us almost, to not be kind of dull underlighting towards us. The floodlights are illuminating us, but it was just, this is to show we were playing with a kind of, it was almost like a scouring brush type effect the other night, like a disinfectant. There was something very cleanly, almost like medically so, about that performance the other night. There was no, he's underperforming, he's getting away with it. It was just whoomph, absolutely clinical. In almost a literal sense, it was just really, really clinical the way we got the job done on the part. Thrilling, but no fanning about, so to speak. It was a 12 pass move for the third goal, which was sensational. We know Russell Martin's capable of 55 pass moves, ending in a goal, but this was tremendous. And then once the job was done, it was like the last half hour. We basically took the game down slower and slowed the pace down, just kind of managing the game, bringing on the substitutes, no danger of conceding a goal whatsoever. But it just felt like, in the best possible way, the most kind of proper, authentic thing about this performance, against our desire, our underlying desire for a proper, authentic Rangers team, was the fact that it looked like Victoria Pilsen almost weren't there. They didn't consent, and it also, that segues with the Russell Martin style, which is to risk, passing the ball across the front of your own goal, pass the ball across the front of your own box, to show the ball to the opposition strikers, let them come in and almost let them dispossess you. But that's when you've got them, when you want them, spin away from them, you've got the space, you've broken the line already in one move and away you go. It was that, you need to, do you know what it's like? When I always remember Kevin Keegan talking about playing against Franz Beckenbauer, is that football, Voteball documentary that I was talking about from like 30 years ago, ahead of the Euros going to England, and in '96, I'm talking about Euro '96, and he's talking about playing against Franz Beckenbauer. Kevin Keegan, it was at Don Revie was the England manager at the time. It was a friendly at Wembley, and he said, "Right, you're going to mark Beckenbauer tonight." Maybe it was Ron Greenwood, whatever. It was at the time when Keegan was playing for Hamburg. Would it have been? No, because Beckenbauer played for Hamburg in the '80s. So Keegan had played in the Bundesliga. Anyway, he's marking Beckenbauer. He's like, I didn't bother. And he felt as if he was on top of him all the time. He felt as if, he says, I would be right on top of him. The ball would be there. Closer to me than him. But he would just glide away from me all the time. You play the fives, or you play fit by yourself. There's these kind of guys that you always think you're about to get them. You think you've got them in your sights, and they just drift away from you. And they don't seem to break sweat. There was an element of that with Rangers the other night. Just, we don't even notice you. You're not even here. Kind of thing. You're like the lamppost. You're just marking what direction we're going to go in, but you will not get the ball off us. And it was fabulous. It was much needed after all. I think the OTT, like a hysteria almost, that came after the Motherwell result. Although the manager himself, the head coach, was definitely responsible for a massive headline-grabbing reaction himself, albeit he was very, very cool about it. But a lot of people had decided that he'd got that wrong, and he needed the reaction that they got the other night to prove it and make the changes as well. He made the changes. It's nice to be able to just enjoy the kind of fallout from that, and I want to do that right up until kick-off tomorrow against Dundee, because if it goes wrong against Dundee, we're back to square one. So I might as well make the best of it. I'm going to go and put some suggestions into the Union Bears suggestion box. A lot of you guys, thanks very much, been getting in touch after the post-match reaction the other night, after the game the other night. Just want to share your joy, and it's a privilege to get those messages in. It's fantastic, and a few of you, same age as myself, inventing songs. We're not inventing songs because there's a guy who's playing for us now called Antman, I mean, he turns up training the day before. That's him signed like kind of 24 hours before the game takes place, and then he's straight into the team. He's getting instruction at half time. That's what Martin's telling us. They're showing him video clips and all that at half time of how he can do what he's doing better. They're still training him into the system that he's playing, and it immediately benefits the second half with the goal he sets up for Gassama in the second half, having won the penalty for the second goal on the night. And it's just fantastic. It's a tremendous debut for anybody. It could go wrong, It could be that we've plenty of players who've been fantastic in their debut, are fantastic for a few months, and then they just slowly start to fade away and never really come back. But it was lovely, and a lot of you, of course, have been getting in touch because, apart from anything else, the fact that he arrived so quickly, he hit the ground running. He's already had a pre-season under his belt with Go Ahead Eagles, so it's not as if he's. I mean, Antman coming from Go Ahead Eagles, it's all very Marvel Comics, I think, and the Antman is probably going to be the first tifo. It'll be featuring the Marvel's Is it Marvel do the Antman thing? I'm not really into these kind of things, but that'll be featured. And there's lots of ants things with actual ants. I said you guys have been getting in touch with suggesting various songs for him, and I'm going to steal them all and put them in a suggestion box. The Union Bear suggestion, the Union Bear suggestion box that it's in the Copeland front concourse. It's just next to the Ladbrokes concession. It's a kind of wicker basket. It's an old. It used to be a lady's sewing basket with all sewing stuff in it, but they got that because it was nice. They got it in it when they went antiquing one day in Lanark. But they got in. It's sometimes they yarn bomb it. They will yarn bomb it, and it's quite good at Christmas, especially when it's usually just kind of teddy bears and stuff like that, and knitted goals and things like that, and bogging in the back of the net. It's fantastic the amount of detail. And Union Bears are really quite talented. But the Christmas when they like Santas and snowmen and we post boxes and that, they've knitted them on top of the suggestion box. It's great, but it's always packed. The suggestion box. That's where they get the ideas for the tifos, etc. And initially I said it will be Antman. The Antman. This guy has arrived and he's actually got his own nickname. And his surname is a nickname. That's how convenient it's been. Straight on at the park, wins a penalty, scores a goal. Absolutely sensational on the park, and he's also got his own nickname. Fantastic. It's his surname. We don't even have to think about it. And there'll be the tifos that involve ants. But by the end of the season, I think we want the Moomins. I'm putting in the suggestion box for the Union Bears today, a tifo with the Moomins. And it'll be presenting the Moomins themselves. I don't want Antman done like a Moomin, but he'll just be wearing his Rangers strip on this tifo. The illustration of Antman himself. Not Oliver Antman, not Antman, but he'll be probably getting his Ballon d'Or. Or the Moomins on a wee island and they're awarding him, they're handing him his Ballon d'Or, because I'm not getting carried away. I just think he's utterly sensational, and I've got so carried away, in fact, with him and Gas. This Antman and the Gas was always going to sound like a great front partnership, even though they're not the actual partnership. Remember we used to have Tav to Barisic to Tav, and the gaffer now is saying, well, he likes winger to winger, doing winger to winger goals are always good. In the same sense, just a different way of getting that width at that point in the park, isn't it? Remember against Galatasaray, it was a qualifier, wasn't it? Only Europa League, but it was a qualifier. Barisic to Tav, and then we've got wide man to wide man. It's actual wide players, attacking wide players this time. Antman to the Gas for the second goal against Victoria Pilsen. That wasn't a riff on Pilsner Lager that was trying to do with the warning about the ABV. I mean that. That's hate. I don't want anybody selling themselves short on the amount of alcohol in their cans. But it was lovely the other night, but it made me straight away just started thinking about Oleg Kuznetsov and Michael Moles. Know that they played together as a partnership up front, and I just mean how they get injured far too early. You're just starting to enjoy them. Kuznetsov was at 2 games or something. He played for us, and then that was it. Sensational, world class. We're going to win everything with these guys. And Russell Martin did say he wanted to win the Champions League. That was his ambition. Didn't necessarily say it was with us, but finals in Budapest. So I really was starting to do that, and that's when I know that things are going well. When I start worrying about them going wrong. There's been so much going wrong, and there's been so much kind of moaning and hysterical rendering of garments since Russell Martin took over. It's just been absolutely over the top, unnecessary, that you feel the need to kind of calm down, and just a bit of context, and basically just try to cheer folk up. Whereas when I'm actually really happy with what's going on at Rangers, that's when I start worrying about what's going to go wrong, and they're going to get injured. It's too good to be true. Their form's just going to crash. That was it. This is good. Gassama has got 4 goals in this qualifying campaign. By the third qualifying round, or he's only had 1 start. We all know this. This is a stat that we all know. But I was to do my snagging list from the other night. I was talking, I stood outside Ibrox after the game. I didn't know what had happened in the build-up to the first goal. I was like, I don't know who fired the ball into Dessers, but he lays it off first time to Gasma. Great goal. It was Gasma that fired the ball into Dessers, and Dessers did not lay it off first time. It was better than that. He held it up, had a look around, made a wee movement to keep the defender the right side behind him, and to make the space for Gasma, the timing for Gasma to come on. And then I saw the repeats of the goal from the angle from behind the goal that was on Rangers TV. Obviously, it's been filmed on Rangers TV, and it's glorious. In slow motion, you see Gasma, he's giving it, give it to me. Give it to me. Give me the boys. Now's the time to go. It was so deliberate. It was so clinical. It just disinfected all the nonsense we'd had after the Motherwell game. And it goes, a fantastic goal. Beautiful to watch. But I didn't. It's because it's like, it's like being a car crash, like a beautiful car crash. And you really do get kind of neck injuries and stuff like that, whiplash after certain goals at Ibrox with the celebrations. But it just kind of blanks it out. Your brain just doesn't kind of take on the detail because the emotion just takes over. It turns out it was Gasman that fired the ball into Dessers and is back there to take it back off him. A glorious goal. And what I didn't note was that Dessers, with that goal, did Dessers score against Servette 2 seasons ago? No, Servette, who we could have got the other night if they'd beaten Pilzen in the previous round. Was it Dessers that scored against Servette, or was it Sam Lammers and Dessers had the big miss? So I went and checked this when I get back in, because I was at the game, no excuses. And it was Dessers had made it 2-0 on the night. Sam Lammers then missed the sitter that would have made it 3-0 and tie over in the first leg at Ibrox in that game against Servette, who went down to 10 men, then pulled a goal back. We went through anyway. Drew one each over there. Tav had scored in that game with a penalty. But Dessers did score against Servette, and then last season he scores against Dynamo Kiev in Lublin in the first leg, even though we went out. That means the other night, that's him 3 seasons in the trot. He scored in the third qualifying round of the Champions League. Now that's somebody who can get you into playoffs, somebody who's consistently doing a bit that will get you into playoffs. If we are going to be selling Cyriel, and even if we don't sell him, that just lets you know his value. We're starting to get the message with Big Cyriel. It was tremendous the other night, and he's been tremendous at that stage in that tie. He certainly got a goal anyway, but Antman's already on more than him in this tie, in this qualifying, should you say? You could equal it before we even get through the playoff round. Cyriel Dessers goals for Rangers in qualifying rounds of Europe, but I didn't note the fact that it was. I knew that obviously that Dessers had taken the penalty on Tuesday night and put it away beautifully, but the significance of that with the captain being on the bench, that was James Tavernier as the penalty taker, as he was against Servette 2 seasons ago. He scored against Servette because he doesn't just score for the penalty spot, Tav. He scores whether we win, lose or draw. He scored in Eindhoven when we get beat 5-1 over there. He scored in Servette when we drew one each from that time. We know what he did to get us to that final in Seville in 2021, 2022 season. But Tav not taking penalties for Rangers, that was quite a thing the other night, and I completely failed to mention it in my post-match reaction pod. And I don't want these to think that I'm completely incompetent and start to throw away my stuff, because I've had that start to just drop me basically. I've had that, I've had that thing where I've been to Berlin on holiday. I'm always telling you about my holidays in Berlin. I went to Berlin back in July there, and I've talked about it endlessly in these pods. I'm sorry about that. And it's the 4th time I've been to Berlin. I've been going since for most of the 21st century, going every now and then. It's a great place for a holiday. But it's before there was pods, before there was YouTube. I don't know when YouTube started, but certainly 2000 anyway. YouTube had started 2000 maybe. Is it 99 YouTube started? I can't remember. But I wasn't doing it then. I didn't know anything about the pod. It was blogging we did back then, and I had the Fat Egg blog. And I remember going and getting leaflets and flyers. And see that in the Techno Viking video, there's a guy that gives him a flyer. He gives the Techno Viking a flyer, which he just kind of looks at briefly. That's no me, obviously. You see that it's no me when I was in Berlin, but I'd been in Berlin just before that, and it's my pal Jürgen. And I'd say to him, I've got some of these flyers because I was trying to promote my blog. I said, can you hand them out? Don't hand them out at the Love Parade, because that's too on the nose. That's maybe Celtic fans are going to be hand them out at the other parade. I'll not mention the name, but hand them out at the other parade because that's more my kind of crowd, more a Rangers savvy crowd. They're more likely to be attracted to the way we do things as Rangers supporters. Make you hang it. I'll hand them out. I'll not bother. So it was. I'd got a bunch of business cards and flyers made up back in the day, and I went down to the guy at Staples and I says, what do you think I should do? What's your name? It's fategg.co.uk. He's like, right, that's good. And is it Rangers stuff? It's Rangers. He says, well, what today? We'll make the dots. Just make it fategg.co.uk right across the flyer. He says, but we'll make the dots be like footballs. They'll be like footballs. Like, you kind of 1974 World Cup, they did this black and white panelled footballs. That's brilliant. That's a great idea. And then if the co UK will make the top of the letter, like the top third of the letter, will be like Rangers blue, like kind of royal blue, and then below that for a wee bit it'll be white, and I'm like, and the bottom bit's going to be mostly black, but with a wee red bit across the top. You've got it in one, mate. So you're not actually saying Rangers at any point, but everybody will know through the colours. That's absolute genius. It's like, no, but wait a minute. I says it's FATE. That's only 10 letters. I said, I want to have the goalkeeper's jersey in there as well. He says, what? He says, nobody's going to notice this. Have you met any Rangers supporters? Everybody's going to notice the differences. So I want. He says, you don't want yellow first. I said, I want the yellow. He says, because at that time, 2000, we're already having the thing where they were starting to vary. They're getting all these jazzy goalies jerseys. Now, no, I want to get back to the tradition of the Rangers goalie wears yellow. That's traditional Rangers goalie top. Get back to that. So I want that. I want the F to be yellow. He says, but folk will not be able to see it. They'll not be able to see it. They'll look at it and just see the @ec, .co.uk, and they'll think, what is it? Is it the @ Is it just a fancy way of doing the kind of @ sign for that's the start of the address? And it's just like, @.co.uk, @ec, and ec, ec's German for corner. But I was like, I want that. I really want it. I says, but I just need to know. I says, well, what would they do in the bottom? fategg.co.uk, then in a much smaller font down the bottom, it'll just be the Rangers blog. The Rangers blog. And we'll make and then Ranger, we'll make that all blue, all Rangers blue, and then Airs will be white, white Airs, and then you'll have the blog will be, log will be black, but the L will be red, and that's it. So you've done it. That's your 11th player, if you like, along the bottom. That's absolute genius. I like that, Fat Ecto. So I got my mate Jurgen to hand them out, and I don't know if it's just, maybe he's dropped an eckie or something, because he had that bottle of water as well. He didn't know it's been filmed, did he? The Techno Viking didn't know it's been filmed. And so I saw what he did. It was $19.99 for 1,000 of the flyers, and that's 2,000. That's a lot of money back then. And Jurgen's just gave him one in good faith, and he's looked at it, and he's ripped it up and he's thrown it away, hasn't he? He ripped it up and he just throws it away. You see it. I don't know if it's. I think maybe if he's dropped some acid or whatever it does, and he's looked at it and he just went, it's Eck corner.cock. What the and he's like, I'm on a corner, and it was like in a bend. He's walking around in that street, so he just rips it up and throws it away. And I don't want you discarding me the same way the Techno Viking discarded me. The other thing that's snagging item, Voy. I was talking about Voy, that product, as I said, it was a pink box. The slimming product that they're advertising just now on the telly, and it's like the one that's advertising, it's got a pink top on. The box itself's kind of rusty red colour, so I don't want to get sued by them. I just point that out. And yeah, Jonathan Sutherland, he was absolutely raging because Rangers had won. But the thing for me, it was just a beautiful night, and I love the fact that we're going to play Dundee tomorrow night, and it's going to be the same kind of vibe, because it's earlier, obviously an earlier kick-off, but you have that kind of almost European vibe. Even it's a terrible time for a kick-off at this point in the summer, but there's not been a lot of football. It's been great. It's really nice. And the floodlights the other night were on for the start. It was like the Panathinaikos game. Didn't have to have the floodlights on at the beginning because it's still that bit lighter right into July, but into the beginning of August now. Still, it's not proper autumn or anything. But the other night was a beautiful way of doing it. The floodlights come on earlier. They're on for the whole game before kick-off even. And then the night just slowly kind of recedes the daylight, and it goes into the night, and it's, I can usually look down between to my left, I look west, then between the bottom of the south stand and the Brimlin, and I can see like Dumbarton, the sun, setting in Dumbarton or whatever, over Dumbarton, and it's absolutely gorgeous usually, but then I didn't even notice, just suddenly it becomes blue, then it goes kind of slightly black, and it's just darker, and you're just left with the floodlights, and they're shining on the pitch. And on the pitch is Rangers, and that's what it's going to be from now on. Not autumn, not winter, it's just Rangers and us. Summer holidays are over. Summer holidays, all that nonsense is done. It's just weekend, midweek, us and Rangers, and it's going to be absolutely fantastic. I was talking about, I did say, I'm going to get into it though, when I'm going to start talking about the game against Dundee and what the manager was saying in the pre-match press conference, but I did promise you the old women talking about massive organs. Okay, I said in that post-match reaction pod, I've got a kind of an anecdote, a metaphor, an analogy, whatever. But I was watching this programme. It was before I went away to Berlin, actually, and it was a thing when it was at BBC Two or BBC Four. It was more of it was like a documentary, but it was more than that. It was better done. I think it's actually a film, strictly speaking, an hour-long film, and it was all about a guy who went about repairing organs, well, church organs. And there's so much to it. I didn't know how. I mean, you know, a right big church organ, you see all this stuff, the pipes and that, but there's so much more at the back of it and all that. And all over the country, it's a bit like pubs, really. They're just disappearing because there's no the same. And people aren't as religious. Well, they are religious, but about football and politics. Do you know, they're not, the organised religion stuff's definitely fading in most parts of the country. So these things that the churches are shutting down, or they're becoming, you know, pubs, or just getting demolished and all that. And it was, at first I was tittering away, you know, because it's an old woman who used to be the organist in this part. It's in County Durham, and it's talking about how she loved that organ, and it was a massive organ, and she's biased and all that kind of thing, you know, but it's the best organ she's ever seen. And you get to my age, you still want to remember when you were like 14 that year. In fact, when you're 14 that year, today with sex is just like, oh my god, yeah. But it's nice. There's so many folk out there. You're fucking Andrew Tate's and all that, just being complete scumbag. You want to just remember that it's a bit just silly, and everyone's just silly, the kind of sex stuff and all that. You know? But this woman, I'm tittering away and all that through that, and making my wife sitting going, oh, for Christ's sake, what age are you? But there was one of the bits that they pull out, it's the proper old church organs, but it's all wind operated, you know. And you pull out these bits at the side of the organ, and they've got little phrases, and they're called stop knobs. I mean, stop knobs. She's pulling the knobs in the massive organ. And I'm just like, oh, she misses pulling the knobs in the past. Within about 5 minutes, I was just like, oh my god, I'm such a scumbag. I am a scumbag in those terms anyway, but it's just in the privacy of your own home, and it's not as if I'm sharing it with them in the internet, and they're going to know that I was talking like that. And I'm sitting, oh, it's massive stop knobs, and but it was how the church was closing, and it's talking about the sense of community, however that just vanishing completely as well, because everybody's just doing their own thing these days. And the woman that's what she says. I used to go. I would play the organ on a Sunday, and it was just great. I loved it. And she's sitting there like showing you how to play the key, and thinking, aye, this was her, the way you love football. Like that's the way the women loved playing the organ at her church for her. In a congregation, and obviously a believer, but it's more the sense of community. And it was kind of segueing into how the pits and all that in the mining community were disappearing. It's County Durham, it's that part of the world, and it was really sad. And this guy is quite a posh bloke, very intelligent, very articulate, but an absolute lover of traditional organs, and it's so much work. He goes running about basically trying to rescue them. He's running about the whole country trying to rescue these organs before they're. Is it called Organ Stops? Look it up. Organ Stops, I think was the name of the. There's one bit. There's a woman in a Scottish woman, and she's at some massive cathedral somewhere. She's the organist there, and she was talking about how it's like a secret. She can't believe that she's got this. She composes music. She composes organ music, and it was folk who get these old church organs and they put them in their house to keep them. Folk are right into this. This guy sitting in like a normal kind of terraced council house, and his whole bedroom is this massive. Well, the organ itself, with the keyboard's just the standard kind of size for the Wurlitzer or whatever you want to call it at Blackpool, but it's the keys, the pipes and all that just take up so much space. So folk are walking past his house and it's just this massive, like a Dracula film or something from the 1930s. Just folk are enthusiastic about different things, and it really made me think. This woman, she was Scottish, and I could just, because of my background and all that, I'm thinking if she's gone and telling her family, you know, oh, I'm having great fun in that massive organ, they're going to be like, just taking the mickey. But the way she was talking about it, the love she had for the music and the passion she had for preserving these amazing instruments as well, I was just starting to kind of like, shut up, Alec, this is actually pretty sad and pretty serious and pretty impressive in different ways. And what it was, the guy was this guy, the main guy that we're following, the star of the show, if you like, he's going about preserving all these organs everywhere, and it was breaking his heart if he went somewhere and they'd actually just ripped it out. And that's what happened with the old woman in County Durham. You know, they'd ripped it. She went back to the church. It'd been shut down for ages. And this old fella who was obviously looking after it as well, he was like, nah, I just thought rather rather than letting it sit there and rot, might as well sell it for scrap. So they'd cut off all the end stops, and some of the end stops, one of the things they do, their instructions, it wasn't like A, B, C, D, or 1, 2, 3, 4. They tell you what it does, if they're proper old school. And one of them was swell to great. Swell. So if you hit this note, then you pull this organ out, you pull this knob out, and it goes. So I was tittering away. Oh, swell to great. It's going to get bigger. I know that knob's going to make it go. But by the end of the program, I'm like, oh, and they'd cut them all off. They just shaved them all off, And the guy was the guy who was a specialist. His heart's breaking. The old woman, her heart's breaking. Just looking at how they'd vandalised. It was like seeing like an elephant carcass after its tusks had been removed, kind of thing. It was just heartbreaking. But there was this. It was Jehovah's Witnesses, and it's Clacton, or was it Clapton? It's a part of London anyway. And they were. It's kind of. I'm sure it was Jehovah's. It was kind of quite a charismatic church scenario. But they wanted this. They wanted this organ from up north that was no longer used. The church wasn't used, and they'd bring it down south. And it took them weeks to disassemble it. There's 980 pipes in the thing. That's because most of them are behind the scenes. You've got to display pipes and that. 900. And these people were talking about the woman who was working, an older lady who was working, volunteering, making meals and stuff like that, and making foods in that church down south. She was saying, oh no, a lot of our evangelising is amongst the Caucasians, mostly Caucasians around here. So the one thing we can communicate on is our mutual love of glorious music. So having the organ's going to make a massive difference. They were all singers and musicians and that as well. So they were really going to appreciate it. So the guy's getting it done there, but it took months and months and months for them to disassemble from its original spot up in County Durham, and then to get it down south, and then to reinstall it. It took months, and they got to a point they put in like 280 of the pipes. And the woman who was a musician, she was the organist for this Jehovah's Witness church. She just had to get her hands on the keyboard and just, and it sounded fantastic. She was like, can't believe it's going to sound. We've got it's the best part of 1,000 pipes all installed, and they're having to clean out all the pipes. And at one point, there's a big pipe thing, and it's all black inside, and it's the dust. It's the coal dust for County Durham. And it was just really much, just like, bloody hell, that's it. It's that community, what County Durham, it isn't even now, even in County Durham, it'd be hard to find that, just that remnant of the coal, the soot, the dust from when the mining industry was prevalent up there. And they've got it down in Clacton or Clapton, whatever it is in London, and they're clearing it out. And it's taking that part of the community with you. And the villain of the piece is a guy who sells electric organs, this electric organ seller, because all these church buildings are having to, move with the times. They're having to, kind of scale it all back and move to smaller buildings. So they don't they can't afford this reconstruction work that's so expensive and so time consuming. They just want to move to smaller premises and get a wee electric organ in, and that'll do fine. And he's the enemy. He's the absolute enemy. This guy that was selling these organs, which are fantastic, make a great sound and all that, but they just don't have the majesty of this. And I felt as if it was just suddenly everything obviously resonates with Rangers as far as I'm concerned. But it's like what we're doing just now under Russell Martin. We want to take the good stuff with us. It's going to take a while to get back that majesty. To get it, we're not just an electric organ, shove that in, that's it, sorted. It takes time, love, patience. Even when we've got a whole lot of money again, it's still the actual act itself. No matter how much money you've got, you can only put it together one pipe at a time, and they've all got to be dealt with brilliantly. But we will get that magnificent magisterial sound out of our massive instrument one more time, and hopefully people that are kind of, I'm tittering and laughing because I don't want to get into the raw emotion of that documentary on working class life and people having their insides ripped out basically of the community, and how much it's devastating people. So I'm laughing at double entendres and what have you. And a lot of people, I think, get so angry. Rangers fans get so angry, so knee-jerk, so dismissive, and so knee-jerk and dismissive with Rangers just now, and Rangers players, and people who are trying to do the job at Rangers because they can't face up to how much it means to them. That's the way of the emotion, the desperation to see us back at the top, and getting back that sense of community, which really involves Rangers winning, because it's a horrible place when we're not. Even though for me, it should be just as beautiful to go and watch Rangers, even if times are hard, and sometimes it is. But it takes a while. It takes a lot of care. You need specialists in there, and they need to really care about what they're doing. And I think we have that guy. I think we have that guy in Russell Martin. He seems to be that kind of guy. And sculling a six pack of Pilsners isn't a party in itself. It's a good start to the party. But if we hang on there, if we hang in there with Russell Martin, I think we're going to get there. RB Salzburg against Bruges. Thanks very much. I was supposed to go to Bruges on holiday this year in the summer, but I didn't go to Bruges because I've never seen Club Bruges. I wasn't at the Scott Nisbet game, and and also Club Bruges are one. I need to get them off my personal list. I need to see all the European finalist clubs, all the clubs that appeared in the European final. I've never seen Club Bruges. They're playing Rangers at Ibrox in a friendly. I went to Berlin because to go to Bruges, the timings, I wouldn't have been the actual city in Bruges, in Belgium. I wouldn't have been able to do that and be back in time for the game. And I couldn't see Club Bruges in Bruges when I was in Bruges because they weren't playing in Bruges, they were playing at Ibrox. So I was, and then knew we were going to get them again a month later. They've won 1-0 at Salzburg. RB Salzburg, a European finalist. They certainly hold the licence anyway for Casino Austria Salzburg, who reached the 1994 UEFA Cup final, lost it to Inter. I've never seen them. I'm waiting for a chance to see them. And I thought, is it too much to ask that I get to score them off my list as well in the space of a month? But of course, I mean, Pilsen got through by losing the home leg. They lost their home leg in the previous round to Servette and still did them 3-1 away from home. So just because Bruges won 1-0 at Salzburg doesn't mean to say they're through. But it looks like having not seen Club Bruges and been really tortured by it for over 30 years, I'm now going to get to see them twice in the space of a month. If Rangers go through, there's no guarantee that we're going to go through next week. One thing you can never say is that you haven't been told. That's what the psychiatrist tells Carmela Soprano. One thing you can never say is that you haven't been told. I'm going to delay that one. I'm going to explain that one in a later pod. But the manager might not have gone too early. Somebody was asking him that last one on Monday. Do you think you went too early with your reaction to the response to the Motherwell draw? No, he didn't think so, but I might have. The only kind of roller coaster for me has been the level of vitriol aimed at him, aimed at Russell Martin, mostly on Saturday night and Sunday last week, and me reacting to that badly. It's only because he's vegan. That was me lashing out in my way. That's my displaced emotion. That's the way it comes out for me. And then I had the elation, as I say. I've been ranting and raving still about that 3-0 win the other night. And it's his first kind of all-out impressive, and I mean properly impressive, performance. But and it came in his fourth competitive game in charge. But Clement got us the big win in Seville versus Betis early on in his reign. That was our first ever win against Spanish opposition on Spanish soil when he beat Real Betis in Spain in the Europa League group stage. But it was probably the 5-0 versus Hearts, kind of March-February, the March-February of his first spell at Ibrox, the first season he was involved in. He arrived there in October. It'd be February, March. I think that would be where he got a properly complete kind of performance, a properly comprehensive win and performance in a game of a similar magnitude to Tuesday's. So Russell Martin's managed that. It's 4 games in to his having already got us through a round of European competition. So I think it's just ridiculous the amount of criticism he's had. But I've also forgot that Tuesday was a European game. It was all about Russell Martin's response. Even a European nut like myself, I actually kind of forgot that it was a European tie on the night, because it was about how is Russell Martin's team, what changes has he made to the team, and we all know about that. How are they going to respond? Is he going to get the win? Is it going to be impressive enough to justify him going to the media and slagging his players the way he did on Saturday evening after the Motherwell game? And it did. But I kind of forgot, in a way that people forget James Tavernier has 131 goals. The positive European results get dismissed by hardcore bluenoses, or hardcore bluenose doubters, because it's all about the league. What are we going to do in the league? And Dundee is his next chance for a league win, any domestic win. His next will be Alloa. What looks like it's going to be next Saturday night, 4:06, where we've got Alloa in the League Cup. Barring a disaster against Pilsen, it looks like Celtic will be his next domestic game after that, as we're going to postpone our trip to St Mirren between the two. You're allowed to do that between the two legs of the playoff round of European competition. So even if we pump Dundee, we're going to have to wait until September. I think it's late September, the League Cup quarterfinals, if we beat Alloa. there on the 20th of September, that kind of weekend, and the next guaranteed away domestic match for Rangers is the 27th against Livingston. 27th of September. So this can carry on. This doubt about him, he can win as many European games and do whatever he needs to do between now and basically beating Livingston at Livy, which is another classic banana skin for Rangers. He's not going to get the hardcore Russell Martin doubters on side until then. He's not going to get the doubters on side until he wins the league. But if he wins all his away games or all his home games, you've got to win both of them. Now, Barry was starting to win all his away games and couldn't win at home, couldn't stop getting beat at home. And this was after Clermont, up until the Queen's Park game, unbelievably, and then he lost the St Mirren game at Ibrox after that. Up until then, he was struggling to win away from home domestically, but he couldn't stop when he'd only dropped points in one game, one domestic game at Ibrox up until the Queen's Park match. But that was, yeah. So that was my way of overreacting. The other day I went a bit too early. I'm like, Russell Martin has absolutely done it. He's the guy. But no, he's not going to do it until he starts winning domestic games. And until, so we'll set up this scenario tomorrow as just, it's actually more massive than people would realise. Dundee, it seems like a run-of-the-mill league game for Rangers after the Lord Mayor's show, the European tie, a sublime performance against Victoria Pilsen. But that is the problem, isn't it? After the Lord Mayor's show has always been the problem for us, and we have a massive kind of, simple. Yeah, it was just simple. They're like, all he's got to do is play players in his right position. There's a lot of people just actually think it was their pressuring of Russell, moaning at him to put Max Aarons into right back, his natural position. He did that the other night. It was sublime. It led directly to one of the goals. That's obviously, but Max Aarons was playing at left back. Although he went down the right hand side, it led to one of the goals against Panathinaikos at Ibrox as well. But yeah, Barry, people are already taking, people who are determined to hate Russell Martin, or people who have still got doubts about him, and they will have until he does something concrete in terms of trophies probably. But it's kind of, it's gone from he doesn't know what he's doing, we're conceding too many chances, to we absolutely dominate a game, we win 3-0 and don't really concede too many chances at all. But that's not anything to do with him almost. It's because we were telling him to play players in different positions and get Antman in there. We hadn't signed Antman. The whole slagging of Kieran Dow, I find that's when I start to think there's some kind of psychosis going on, a mass psychosis, because Kieran Dow was never going to be playing in the right hand side for Rangers beyond August. We didn't have the player in there. We didn't have Oliver Antman. Didn't sign until Monday. It's strange. I don't know if that's why Rahman at today's presser was pressing the manager. It was pressing Oliver Antman. And when exactly did Rangers get interested? When exactly did you first know? I think he wants to be able to say Russell Martin wasn't playing him. He could have got Antman in there quicker. That the playing of Kieran Dow was unnecessary. It was. I don't understand. I don't understand this kind of hysteria. The guy's obviously trying to put a squad together as quickly as he can. But I think there's this thing where we get lost in the detail. I was talking about this the other night. It's the kind of paralysis by analysis. Can you see the wood for the trees? We're quite good at the abstract, which is we don't mind. I've heard this so many times, and I've read it so many times as well. Don't mind the manager make mistakes, a new manager especially making mistakes, as long as we can see what he's planning to do, as long as we can see some sort of sense of direction. Well, we do. We see it all the time. We've never mind the various things that Philip Clement was doing, and we'll get back into that. He's gone, and that's it. But even in the horrendous result at Motherwell and the really poor performance, the first 15 minutes, most of the first half, to be honest, we could see what Rangers were trying to do, and we could see why he was raging at half time, because they couldn't quite pull it off. They weren't doing enough up front to turn the general movement and the forward momentum into goals or into chances on goal. We weren't getting enough shots away, but you could see what he was trying to do, and we saw it to full effect with the addition of Oliver Antman between last Saturday and Tuesday night. We saw it on Tuesday night. So we did see the signs, but it was all out. This guy's got to get sacked. He's useless. He'll never be a good Rangers manager. He's all wrong. His tactical blueprint's all wrong. I don't. I think it's like that thing where people will say, for example, I predicted Rangers were going to win by 3 goals the other night, and we did. And folk are, yeah, but you're just guessing. of course, it was a guess. But when you see the reality, somehow that makes it less believable. This idea, if, for example, Panathinaikos, that's another really recent, pertinent example. They're going to be too strong for us. They're too much of continuity at Panathinaikos for us to deal with a new owners, new directors, new coaching staff, new players. Whereas Panathinaikos, definitely new signings, but they've got the same manager. It's a lot more continuity there. They're a massive club. They were playing a grade down from us in Europe last season. They were in the Conference League, but they will deal with us. We do really well to get past them. So we did get past them, but it wasn't because of the reality. It suddenly makes people, we're conceding too many chances, but we go it through. You'd probably said, I don't care how we do it as long as we get through. And we got through by 2 goals over the 2 legs. But no, it wasn't good enough though. Because the details, because you could name the fact that Jack Burton had to make several saves, even though that's his job, and Panathinaikos were missing absolute sitters. That's part of football. They can't score, we can. We are better then. But that's no, the details, the reality seems to somehow make what we'd asked for before the game. When it comes true, we're less impressed by it. And it still becomes a criticism. I think, let's say the Max Aarons thing, he's a right back and he's playing at left back. We don't even know how good a right back is. We're getting a taste of it. I know he played for Valencia and they won at the Bernabeu and that kind of thing, but he has been put on loan. I know Bournemouth are, they're not the old Boscombe and Bournemouth thing. They're now Premier League heavyweights. They've got massive money in the richest league in the world. But he's not getting a game for them. They don't want him. So he's of a certain level. And I was saying, last week you can see that his left foot, he's struggling. He played us into trouble, at least once specifically. He ruined a good forward-going move because he tried to hit the ball with his left foot and he overhit it early on in the second half at Fir Park, and then later on the second half at Fir Park, he just basically cleared the ball infield straight to, I think it's Slattery of Motherwell, who had a really good chance on goal from it. But when I was growing up, when I was a lad, I think really good fullbacks, even if they're massively weighted to 1 foot, if they favour 1 foot, really, and fullbacks usually do, they could still do enough on the other side. They still had their football sense. They still managed to, know how to operate and do the basics on the other flank, on the opposite flank. So maybe it's down to Max Aarons. We've decided that he's great, and it's a crime that the manager isn't playing him in the night. Well, it's because Hefty doesn't have the discipline. But Hefty came in the other night though, so he's back down on that, and Hefty did well. But Hefty's been told what he's got to do, and that was him getting rid of James Tavernier. That was him dropping the club captain as well. So I feel as if it's almost like he can't win, in this thing. It's like Aarons is playing in the wrong side of the park. That one move made all the difference the other night. It's not the fact that the players have had more games to play together. They've been stress tested more. They've got Oliver Antman in there. They've got Gasma able to play from the start of the game that he wasn't when he first arrived. They don't have the proper fitness. Your centre halves are building up a better relationship and things like that. It had to be just because he'd finally realised the error of his ways, and it was like people, every time Max Aarons get played at left back, it was like people had heard that Pamela Anderson wasn't going to be Liam Neeson. They misheard it and they thought it was Leslie Nielsen. She was going to be, didn't he not die? That's sick. Why is she going to be? No, it's not. It's just a guy getting played. Rothwell come in at 6, so Raskin gets moved, but I think a lot of people were starting to get in this. I was interested in what was going to happen with Raskin, but a lot of people were instantly outraged that Raskin was getting give him a free rein, but in a team that obviously doesn't play that way. It's not about free rein, it's about discipline of position. That's why your fullback's only crossing over the halfway line at that so often. Anyway, I don't understand what was going on there. I hope it all alleviates, but he really needs to win against Dundee, who are in a terrible state. I think it's bad at Rangers, genuinely bad at Dundee, even though they're still in the top flight. Stephen Presley is manager. I mean, we're up against a manager, you have to admit, it's up against a manager. We're getting all excited. I'm getting all excited about the fact that Rangers did so well in what was that, third qualifying round game the other night. Well, the Dundee manager was in the Champions League group stage in his very first game, the very first night of Champions League group stage football. He set up the second goal ever scored at Ibrox in the Champions League for a World Cup winner, and a guy who'd also scored in a different World Cup final. Rudy Voller, Stephen Presley, set him up for a goal that night, and that was against the eventual champions, the team that actually won the thing, Olympic Marseille. Right? So Stephen Presley, highly experienced footballer, certainly played at a higher level than Russell Martin. How can the Scottish game be so different to Europe? Maybe Oliver Antman's asking these days. Well, Gassama, Oliver, let me introduce you to Simon Murray, who, thank God, is struggling. Apparently, it's a fitness test. He's going to have a late fitness test, Simon Murray. He's been injured, but he likes a goal against Rangers for Dundee or for Ross County or for whoever. He's a cracking player, Simon Murray. He really does brilliantly. So I'm really hopeful he's going to fail that fitness test. Stephen Presley is his first management job in 6 years. He failed to get Dundee out of their group stage in the League Cup. They lost to Alloa, who we're playing next week, in the next round of the League Cup. They lost to Airdrie, which is absolutely horrendous. They struggled to beat Bonnyrigg Rose, who've dropped back out of the league. So they lost 2-1 at home to Hibs at Dens Park in the first week of the league season, the Premiership season. But apparently, I've not seen the highlights, but apparently Dundee had like 2 shots on goal, and I think one of them is from a Hibs player who mishit it for Dundee's goal in the game. I saw some of the stats. I think Hibs had about 15 shots on goal or something. They just totally dominated in terms of play, and he's been kind of lobbying Stephen Presley against his own board. For any time I look at the headlines about Dundee, they've signed a 20-year-old striker from Burnley, who I imagine was go straight into the lineup on Saturday night. But that's about one of the 5 or 6 signings that Presley is claiming they're going to need to get done before the end of the transfer window. He's saying that the goalposts have shifted what he was promised when he took the job, and he's saying that Dundee needed to learn how to do transfers better. I think he worked for a while. He had a coaching role at Brentford, Stephen Presley, or some sort of role at Brentford, so he's picked up a super professional way to do things, and he just thought, right, I could do that. Now I fancy having a go at coaching again, and it's just not working out the way he thought it was. So bad state of affairs at Dundee. We have to be able to take advantage of that. I mean, like Motherwell last week, Fir Park, we haven't lost there in the league since 2002. That still remains the same, but it wasn't exactly good news last week, was it? And the thing with Dundee is that they haven't failed to lose at Ibrox since 2001. And you just always worry these records are going on too long. It's just, we haven't been in the same division as Dundee through all that 24 years, but then it's not always been a case of that we've been in the division above Dundee. Dundee have been in the divisions below us. I remember as soon as we get back up to the top flight, was it the season of the Championship under Warburton? We got them in the Scottish Cup. We scalped them 3-0 because we got Dundee and we drew Hamilton as well. I think first season back we got them in the Scottish Cup or something as well as in the league. It was like we suddenly ticked off all the teams that we hadn't played. That sometimes kind of floated about the leagues. It was like Hamilton and Dundee. We'd managed to avoid them at some point. We just got them in quick order. So we'd played basically every team in the Scottish League system over the course of 5 years. But we gave them a scalping 3-0, and they've been pretty terrible at Ibrox, but they have cost us big time at Dens Park. It's real, even when we beat them 4-3 there last season under Barry towards the end of the season. Of course, we scored the winner late on after Cyriel. Cyriel got the winner, but he'd missed about 25 chances, and we'd been losing 3-1 in that game. It's always a bit of a struggle at Dens Park, and I don't know how it will go tomorrow against Dundee, but we should be winning this easily, and we kind of need to. I don't think there's enough new players in yet to compensate for the draining nature of Tuesday's kind of end into a tumultuous week, a tumultuous period, tumultuous 2 or 3 day period from Fir Park to the heat of Athens and everything that had happened over there, and then you end up at Fir Park. It doesn't go according to plan. The manager grabs all the headlines and really hammers his players. I think he was giving them enough rope. He was just giving them enough rope so he could become the boss. And he knew that was there. He knew that problem was there with the attitude, and he went public with it. That's how he dealt with it. And then you get a brilliant response. The team wins 3-0. He's definitely the boss. But even as Russell Martin himself said with JD Gassama, I think he played poorly in the friendly against Middlesbrough after he'd scored the cracking goal within a few minutes of coming on against Panathinaikos at Ibrox. He said that the actual winning, scoring the goal and the celebration and everybody loving him, had been draining. It's physically draining. It's emotionally draining, and that in itself could be tiring. So this is why I don't know if we've got enough new players in to come in and rotate the team to make up for any kind of the draining nature of doing so well. The relief of absolutely gubbing Pilzen, the joy of gubbing Pilzen. But I would think Dundee are so bad that I would take a 3-0. I would take a 3-0 as long as we're kind of 3-0 up at half time and the manager can make changes to rest players for going back to Pilzen, going over to Pilzen on Tuesday, which we don't have a bad start over there. It's not a walkover we might think it is. You lose a couple of goals early on in Pilzen and suddenly everyone's on the precipice of disaster again. So you need the team to be fit for that. So you'll want to. I actually think my predicted 11 would be what I was telling Rahman there. What the leak is telling me is that Raskin maybe coming in and play at 6 and give Rothwell a rest, but I can't see there being too many. There may be lots of changes, and there's certainly lots of changes that can be made. The changes he was making with like a half an hour and 20 minutes to go against Pilzen at Ibrox when we're 3-0 up. With Tav coming in at right back to give Aaron's a rest. Apparently he's perfectly fit, even though he went off early the other night. He's perfectly fit. But Danilo comes on to give Dessers a rest. But I think we should start with the kind of winning team, the team that looks sharpest, the 11 that looked sharpest the other night. Maybe I think there is a rumour that Rothwell's not 100% fit, and he's been a lot has been asked of him since he arrived. He's a guy carrying the system on the park. He knows it best. But I would get a properly strong team out there to get the job done before half time, because Dundee are really, really vulnerable right now, and I think we need to take advantage of that and get the manager a proper solid league win, while at the same time letting him rest the team, rest the players early, getting them off early, and get us over to Pilzen to deal with this second leg, which is just so massive. But yeah, you get like Curtis coming on for Gassama, even Kieran Dowell coming on for Antman, and Danilo coming on for Dessers, if we've got a good 3, hopefully 4 goal advantage early on in the game, because this manager does not believe in the word drop. He doesn't drop. It's was it he said you come in and out the team. You come in. He didn't even want to use the word rotate when Jonathan Sutherland was asking him about dropping James Tavernier. Massive call. I don't like to use the word drop, and it's true. You will have to rotate this team, so maybe we'll see a lot of that tomorrow. I don't think it's time to do that. But the drop is just to see Rangers cutting loose the other night. It's just following the back and naturally harmonising. It was definitely the sound of the Groove Armada that was super styling the other night. The drop happened, I think, and I hope it continues. It's a ridiculous kick-off time, but I'm quite enjoying it this time of the year. The manager's press conference today, I'm still talking to you on Friday, the pre-match presser about Dundee. He was asked about the leak, the fact that the squad is being leaked. People were talking about it in the stands and all that. The guy that sits next to me was telling us, I know the team, I knew I get sent it the day at lunchtime. And there's a slight tone to it. I think there always is. Your mainstream media guys especially are always wanting doom and gloom, and some sort of, their questions are all kind of slightly loaded and trying to create tension, really. Is there something not going right for you? Is there something to be... Everything's got a bad spin on it. I think it's the same throughout the world with sports media, but I don't know. It just seems a particularly Scottish angle. So he does really well, Russell Martin, to be not in any way bothered, but he's not rising to any kind of bait. He says he thinks the opposition manager is going to have his plans made up for his own team. 8 or 9 hours ahead of kick-off. It's not going. It's not going to change the opposition team. It will. It will change their as the season goes on. If they have an idea of what the Rangers team is going to be, it will chop and change what other opposition teams are going to do against us, and it would definitely, if Kieran Dowell's playing against you in the right as opposed to Oliver Antman, you're going to have a change in formation, a change in layout, a change of personnel, perhaps a change in attitude. But maybe we should just start putting out false leaks, take advantage of it, do it like counter-espionage, and just wind up the opposition. But he definitely wasn't worried about it, and he said he just thinks these things are only natural because players' agents and players will just tell somebody, that's me, I'm dropped, I'm not playing. And he likes to tell the team early so they've got time to prepare. I think that's much more important. Players finding out an hour before the game or on the bus on the way to the game. It does create tensions, and it can avoid tensions by telling everybody earlier so they can concentrate all their emotional energy on the match itself. Like Rahman was, when he was interviewing Oliver Antman, he was the player that got put out today for the press, which is quite good. His English, of course, is perfect. And he said, did you speak to Diamandi? I think Rahman asked him, did you speak to Diamandi because you played together at North Zealand? Diamandi left for Rangers earlier to ask him about it. He says, "Oh yeah," he says, I said I did speak to him, but his general vibe, Antman, was I was coming anyway. I didn't really need anybody to tell me. He didn't talk to Glenn Kamara or anything like that. I just didn't talk to MD in the Finland national team or Andy, who he'd played with in club football, who had been at Rangers, because he didn't really need it sold to him. Because we speak for ourselves, we sell ourselves by being, in the later reaches of European competition year after year. And he said, he told me it was tough. He told me, it was in Rahman's right. In what way? In what way was it tough? And did you ask him about Rangers? Did you ask him about living in Glasgow? And he said, yeah, it was brilliant. It was fantastic. I mean, it'd be tough, but it was. What way was it tough? And he knows he wants Armin to say, because Catholics will pure hate you or something like that. It's like he was just like, no, it's just like a tough league. No, it's tougher football and that kind of stuff. You're playing, it's quite. The fans are quite demanding, but that's what I want. I want it to be tough. I want it to be. You have to win week in, week out. It's like, all right, okay. That's disappointingly brilliant answer there from Antman. Asgard, Igaman still injured. They won't be playing tomorrow or the second leg against Plzen, and Mikey Moore is going to be 18 on Monday, and that's him not a minor. I was talking about. County Durham there, but he's not going to be a minor anymore on Monday. That's probably going to make it easier for him to get international clearance. It's quite good that FIFA are taking so long. I think that's what the manager or sort of head coach Russell Martin was trying to say, that yeah, it's bad that it's taken so long for him to get international clearance, so we can't get him we can't allow him to play for us. Mikey Moore, the guy on loan, young boy on loan from Tottenham. But it's quite good that FIFA do look into it properly when people under the age of 18 are being moved around the world to play football. But he's going to turn 18 on Monday anyway. That might speed up the process. Keys to the door, young man. And he was talking, so we can get Mikey Moore maybe into the squad for the game. Oh no, we won't be able to alter the European squad, will we? That'll be too late for the second leg. Anyway, he's not playing Mikey Moore against Dundee, but he's saying how he's been asked if Igaman's going to move, if there's offers in for him. I think the fact that the longer Igaman doesn't play, come on, obviously a substitute against Panathinaikos at Ibrox, but not playing after that, it just makes us think. It makes me think as well that there's an offer in for him. He's just negotiating to move to Lille or somewhere, or Sunderland, something like that. But he says no, he's not had any offers in for Igaman, and that he's improving his English. Igaman's also been improving his English. He's still learning it, so I expect to see him doing a presser at the Stadium of Light at the end of August. Mate, by the way, I'm pure buzzing to get ripped into these Newcastle bombs, by the way. They're total fannies, but I know he's band of Celtic, man. They're totally minging, by the way. I don't know who's teaching him his English, but it's good to know that Igaman will come back better able to communicate, and if we can keep him, that takes the pressure off us getting another striker, because the manager wouldn't say how many more players he wants to buy, but he said it probably won't be the 6 or 7 that have already come in, won't be that kind of number. But then he went on to mention, but releasing players, selling players, getting players off the wage bill, that will release funds. So I don't know. For me, it's 4. We need 4. We need another centre half. We need a left back, obviously. I think we need another striker, but perhaps if Igaman does stay, that takes the pressure off us to do that. And we need another goalie. I don't think Jack Bolton's doing really well just now with his distribution. I think if Liam Kelly could distribute, if he was a proper, kind of sweeper goalie, then he would be in there already instead of him. I think it's essential to the system. So rumours about an Estonian international goalkeeper were after. I think there's a chance of that. Also quite interested in the rumours of, was it Noble Mendy, the Betis Senegalese centre-half, 20 years old, wanted by Rayo Vallecano apparently, and ourselves. He was unused sub in the Conference League final when Betis were cuffed 4-1 in that by Chelsea, winning 1-0 at half-time last season. But this is what I like to hear, that kind of level of player, always interesting. We need another centre-half. Big John Suter, don't know what's happening there. It's quite interesting. It's interesting that it's obviously getting to the point of a contractual, disagreement. He's not getting the offer he wants. His agent's not getting the offer that he wants from Rangers. But Suter is like, I love playing for Rangers. I love playing for this club. I'll give it my all. The head coach is happy enough to give him the armband the other night, and that's not a comment on maybe what Butland is. He was vice captain. Raskin's obviously getting his knuckles wrapped just now, so he wasn't going to take up his vice captain role the other night. But Big John Suter, Scotland player, it's quite a thing for him to get it while he's obviously not signing a new contract at this point in time. It shows that the head coach trusts him, values him, but maybe at the same time, the negotiations which he was putting on, Russell Martin was putting him onto Kevin Thelwell and Dan Purdy, Patrick Stewart, they'll deal with all that kind of stuff. He's really good at avoiding these issues, avoiding any kind of controversy. But it says that perhaps it's not urgent that they keep John Souttar. He's maybe not. It wouldn't be any skin off Russell Martin's nose in many ways if they didn't keep John Souttar. So I don't know. It's quite a strange one. Everything's very fluid just now, as they say. So yeah, that'll do. As I've talked far too long again. I've been on holiday, folks. I've been drinking a lot, in between times. I'm technically sober, I think, but maybe not actually technically. From doing these pods, they're very slow, but I'll get back into the fitness now, and the pods will get shorter. Probably hopefully starting with tomorrow's post-match reaction pod. Most people responded to my last post-match reaction pod by asking me where the wee sweepy guy was. The wee sweepy guy that you hear in the background. Cheers, thanks. That's nice for that. No, doing my kind of metaphor and emotion-addled reaction in the wind and the rain. Ibrox that come on at the end of the game the other night. I'm standing out there just knocking my pan in, getting pneumonia, hypothermia, whatever. And the star of the fucking show is the guy who's driving about in the wee sweepy van, cleaning up, running about outside Ibrox. So it's good to know where I stand. It's good to know. I'm not going to take it. But I heard that the reason he didn't appear in the pod the other night was because his brakes went. The leads to his brakes get cut or something. Apparently, I heard that there was something wrong with him anyway, and his brakes didn't work, and he was on his way around to the back of the Brimlin where I was standing, but he just suddenly lost control of the brake, and he's kind of veering towards the wee gauntlet of Waynes waiting to get autographs off their heroes the players coming out the back of the Courtland into the car park there, and it's all lines away, and he's had to just veering towards it, and he couldn't stop himself because his brakes weren't working. It was a real shame, it was a real tragedy. And he rolled in his windows, the wee windows, the wee flaps on me, opened them up, and he's shouting out, for the love of God, clear the way, and they just couldn't stop in time. And there was at least a dozen Waynes get seriously tickled, and somebody's specs got actually buffed really, really clean, and a couple of Gassama flags got sucked up in between the brushes, and they went into the bucket, never to be seen again. And apparently he's still careering towards the steps at New Edmiston House, and he just can't get stopped. Nobody can stop him. He's going to wipe out in these steps and that handrail in a couple of hours' time, apparently. Because what a shame that'd be, especially if he's your hero. But I suppose I should have detected. I should have checked his brakes, shouldn't I? Really, before setting off. It's just going to be me. The post-match reaction pod after the Dundee game, just me. So no luck, no luck. We know where we'll stand. This pod, of course, is dedicated for obvious reasons to Tommy Lee. Now, what I love about that actually was the fact that he's the noises in the background of the post-match reaction pods. Because when I did the post-match reaction pod the other night, the folk with the hospitality folk that have got the trolleys that have all the cups and the saucers and that on them that go along the rutted car park with and rattle. I had to speak up really loud not to talk over the top of that. So you've heard that. And then there's the buses that the Victoria Pilzen had about 15 buses rented to get their players and officials and that, and probably their fans as well. They're all passing me by. You've got the guy, the tractor that comes out the back of the room one. It comes out the wee car park there and it goes in through the Bluebell gates it's obviously they're doing work on the pitch, they're tidying up the pitch. So it's total tractor noise, and it's brilliant. You're all so used to all the noise that goes on in the background of these post-match reaction pods. You're going, no, that's the guys. And then that's the guys with the wheelie bins. That's not. Where's the wee sweepy guy? You knew that wasn't the wee sweepy guy. All I know is that sometimes a man with a man bag kind of walks alongside the wee sweepy guy, because it doesn't go very far, the wee thing. And there's a wee wind that comes down. He's got the wee flaps, a wee kind of flap, almost like you get a tank, to poke a gun through or something like that. And there's a guy in a handbag, and he just hands him in an Evian, a wee bottle of Evian that comes out the handbag, and it's upside down, and he hands it in, the wee sweepy guy. And he's got the wee the wee siren type, the wee Belisha beacon type thing. They'll know they just what like kind of orange lights that whirl round. It's like sirens that don't make any noise, except when he's reversing and when there's folk in the way. And then beep beep beep. He's got them on, and it just creates enough light so that you can. It's quite darkened windows. You just see. It's a couple of times I've glanced in and I've seen it's a shadowy figure. You can't make it who it is or what the person looks like, but I could just see the light for the beacons was flashing on something on his neck, and I thought, is that a crucifix? Is that a big crucifix? No, it's not. It's an upside down crucifix. It's not an upside. And I realised about the third or fourth time I'd seen him, and the wee sweepy guy going round, because I'm always throwing the dirty looks and all that because he's interfering with my pod. It's a Mjolnir. It's Thor's hammer. It's Thor's hammer. It's upside down. I thought I've seen that somewhere before. But I didn't think about it. And then I asked strangers about the wee sweepy guy, when he didn't appear the other night, and they said they've got no record of anybody ever. They don't have anybody. They don't employ anybody to drive one of the wee sweepy vans. Doesn't he? The two brushes in the front. Aye, we don't have anybody like that. So I don't really know what's happening. There are no records whatsoever. But there's techno records out there. There are techno records out there. They're kind of vinyl, 12-inch, where the sample is like a wee hygiene vehicle reversing on beep 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 in the backbeat. Just more like a backbeat that's kind of added on to the actual bass. It's polishing the bass. It's a kind of sweep, sweep, sweep. As if it's been driven by a guy who did too many drugs and had to get away. He did too many drugs maybe at the turn of the century and just suddenly had to get away. And the only reminder he's got, a kind of psychological token of the guilt that he feels for everything he did when he was under the influence of drugs and drunks. The only kind of clear image he's got of his trance-like years is the moment he littered. He'd ripped up a leaflet and he dropped it on Rosenthaler Strasse. And he's been tormented by that kind of feeling he got of so callously tossing away a leaflet that somebody else had put their heart and soul into making it. He only remembers the colours. He can only remember the colours of the leaflet. And he remembered in a kind of fevered dream the name of the person, what the letters spelt out. Eck, because that was like a corner, I think it's a corner.co.uk that he dropped in the corner of Rosenthaler Strasse back in the year 2000, and he'd resolved that he was going to find the guy who did that. It's Fat Eck, and then a pod appeared. Fat Eck pod. And he was going to find him, and he was going to torment him. Sweep, sweep, sweep.